So I'm almost having to choose, like, do I love where I work and I want to stay there, or do I need time with my child and with my husband? And it feels like a really hard choice. It feels like an impossible choice.
Silicon Valley has more jobs than homes, so housing costs soar, pushing workers out of the area. Why should we all care? Well, traffic congestion, long waits for services, and trouble staffing businesses. We say if you work hard, you'll have a home and time for your family. But for many, teachers, first responders, and service workers, that promise is a dream. Here are their stories.
And so over time, it's gotten tremendously worse. Where I used to previously be able to travel from San Francisco to Mountain View or San Francisco to Altos in a half hour, 40 minutes, my commute now is typically an hour in the morning. And in the evening, if I'm going only from Los Altos to San Francisco, my commute is typically an hour and 15 to hour and a half.
I'm in the car on average each day at least an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's if I've left at the times I'm hoping to leave, and that's just not counting weather or something on the road.
My commute to Los Altos is a quite long commute, taking anywhere from 3 to 3.5 hours a day. I mean, just one way.
So my commute from the East Bay, so I did it for about 2.25 years while I worked here, was in the morning time I would get up about 5:15, try to go as quickly as possible, leave the house by 5:45, but there would still be cars on the road at that time. So sometimes I would kind of wake up early, either worrying about the commute or wake up early because our baby was crying. And sometimes even if it was 4 in the morning or 3:30 in the morning, I would just get up and go because then at least there'd be no cars on the road.
One of the things that's most tragic is we have environmental service workers, we have food service workers, we have CNAs, and many of them use public transportation, and some of them commute 2 hours, 3 hours a day just to get to work.
As merchants are looking for workers, it's tough to find them. One, there are a lot of jobs out there, which is great for the economy. However, people want to work where they live usually, and having folks to commute in to do that can be a problem, and then the high cost of living in anywhere in the Bay Area, but particularly here, can preclude workers, office workers and restaurant workers from actually living in the area.
My workforce is diverse. I have about 50% of my workforce that are the primary wage earners and 50% that are not. For those that are the primary wage earners, it is very stressful. They're looking at creative housing solutions. Many of them have second jobs. They're doing shared housing, and they are trying to always find ways to be able to maximize whatever income they can to just go that little bit further.
So I had to find somewhere myself that I was able to afford, which was very difficult, and there are just not a lot of options in that regard, so yeah.
For my housing, I don't feel like I have a lot of good alternatives. I've been in my building for 10 years, and in that time, in the past 4 years, I've seen the rent go up almost $700 a month, just in the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, the high cost of housing is impacting the retention of quality teachers, in that we will hire teachers and we will put a lot of effort and money and time into training them. And then at the end of 1 or 2 years, once the realization is set in that this is the reality of our home buyer situation in this area, we lose those teachers.
And so I decided to move to Mountain View. I originally only had one roommate. I have a 2-bedroom apartment, so we each had our own room. It's now gotten to the point where I have 3 roommates in the same 2-bedroom apartment that I've lived in for 4 years.
in the long term, we can't stay in Sunnyvale. My husband and I rent a 2-bedroom apartment with another couple because we can't afford to live on our own. But I'm 30 and I would like to have kids and settle down and live with my husband without housemates.
But unfortunately, since our rent has been raised twice, and I think those 2 rent raises equaled up to $1,200 a piece, we're gonna have to move in order to actually save for a home.
Workforce housing is a huge issue for us. Rents have gone way high, too high for some of our employees. They sometimes travel many, many miles to get to work and to get home. So between the lack of affordable workforce housing for our employees and the traffic, the commute, both things combined has been a real challenge for us to try to have employees come and work for us at El Camino Hospital.
Five years ago, when we were offering positions, the majority of people took our position right away, accepted within 24 hours. And now we're finding that when we make offers, applicants are sitting on the offers, they're considering their options, and we have lost a number of teachers due to the commute and the high cost of housing.
So as I started to work there, I found that everything that attracted me to the school when I was looking at it and investigating and applying there was true. I mean, the student body is just fantastic. It's diverse. The administration is very solid. The other staff members are great. The community is great. So everything about it was just overall fantastic. And then when I got permanent status after 2 years, it was almost this weird feeling of I almost became more kind of down and depressed and tired, and I had no idea why. At the start of my 3rd year, I'm like, what is wrong with you? You have permanent status now. You can now work at this place you really want to work at. And I think one day I realized on the commute home, of course, that, it's because now I'm realizing that this is kind of hitting home, that you're gonna have to do this drive every day for the next 30 years. Like, you're gonna hit this wall of traffic on 880 North every day for the next, however long, and it's just gonna get worse year after year. So I think I just became exhausted thinking about the future.
I know of 3 teachers in the last year who've left Los Altos in order to live in a more affordable community elsewhere in the state, or elsewhere actually outside of the state as well. So we are losing experienced, qualified teachers because there is no housing here that they're able to access.
We need to have our caregivers close to us. We have a lot of patients that we have to take care of, and we can't have people living, a lot of people on call. We can't have people living 3 hours away that are being on call. So we have a significant issue that we have to start to correct.
The impact is just not on Linden Tree, it's on the community. So for instance, because I have to have an incredibly flexible work schedule for all of my staff to accommodate all their various needs, I can't just arbitrarily say, yay, we'll stay open till 9 o'clock tonight to support an event. Our events and our community outreach are the 2 things that have suffered the greatest because of the impact of what I have to do to retain staff and keep that flexibility for them to have a balanced life. So for instance, I can no longer really offer a community venue. We have had to cut back on events.
You can't participate perhaps in school life, either with student, kind of seeing what the students are up to, or participating in, bettering the school, doing things after school, volunteering or participating in various initiatives going on at school, because when the bell rings, you have to hit the road, otherwise it just gets worse and worse. And so I think your mind is also, even during work, sometimes your mind is kind of thinking about, how is this commute going to be? I hope I have enough energy to make it home alive. And And when you come home, you're obviously not as fresh, you are tired, you don't feel like doing more work or bettering the curriculum even if you want to. So it affects your work life in various ways.
I don't have a social life. To be quite frank, I eat, breathe, I sleep, school. I hop out of bed at 5:15. Sometimes I sleep in until 6, and I leave the house at 6:15. And I can get to Oak at 6:45 to 7:15, depending on traffic. And it's me and the janitor in the morning, or the morning crew.
By the time you get home in the evening at 6:15, 6:30, usually you're exhausted, so I need at least a half hour or 45 minutes to kind of regenerate a little. By then, it's usually 7:15. Any connections I could have made with friends after work are gone, they're eliminated.
I don't get home till 7 or later, and then I have to cook dinner, and then I've been trying to get up and go to the gym in the morning, feel good, but that means I have to go to bed early, so I really don't have that much time once I get home, especially if I'm cooking or I have some sort of chores. I usually don't meet up with friends on weeknights because there's just no time. For a while I wanted to take classes after work, like I wanted to take a college course or take classes downtown, but I can't make it to downtown. Most of them start at 6:30. There's no way I could make it downtown by 6:30.
I mean, I just think about all the lost time I'm gonna have with my toddler at home. We're gonna spend a lot of time in the car. Probably a lot of personal, like, me time that I tend to have now. I can exercise after work, and I'm not gonna have that time anymore with the commute. So I'm almost having to choose, like, do I love where I work and I wanna stay there, or do I need time with my child and with my husband? And it feels like a really hard choice. It feels like an impossible choice.
In all that time commuting, I give up a lot of time that could be used for studying. I'm a part-time student, so about an hour each way, that's 2 hours roughly where I would be losing out on study time.
It's been a retention issue as well. People are continuously leaving the area and living either closer to a place where they can afford to live. And that's really where we've been losing quite a few employees. About 30% of our employees leave the area, relocate out of the area, which is not something that's very significant to us. We have to try to replenish our employees with a very limited labor pool, because our labor pool, of course, is also decreasing with nursing shortages, etc. So we have our hands full.
In 5 years from now, I don't specifically see myself living here in Los Altos. Currently I'm going to school and studying for a position in like CAD drafting, so wherever the job opportunities are at is where I'm going to go, and I don't really suspect there would be many job opportunities here in Los Altos.
I'm expecting the commute to only get worse and not better. I don't think I could handle it getting much worse than it is now. Part of the reason for me to get my master's is to open up other opportunities, hopefully. I doubt an MPA will give me the salary in Los Altos to be able to stay here because the cost of living is so prohibitive.
I love working at Los Altos High School. I would like to work there for the entirety of my career, as would probably every single person who left the school. It is not by choice. We love our students. The administration is phenomenal. It is the best school I've worked at by far. The community is fantastic as well, but it's just not feasible when I look at what I want for my life and the fact that I want a family and to be eventually able to build or to buy a home in the area where I work.
So in 5 years, I'd like to still be working at the Los Altos Library. I love this community. I know all the teens who come to the library. I love working with them. They're great kids. I love my coworkers. I love a lot of parts of my job. I've been here long enough that I've kind of accumulated duties I like. So I really love where I am, and I don't want to move. It would probably have to be something really catastrophic happening involving my housing that would cause me to move.
In the next 5 years, if I do have to end up commuting longer because that's where I'm able to find a home, that would be really difficult for me because I'd have to give up a lot of the outside activities that I really enjoy in terms of being an educator. Being able to interact with kids. I'm an advisor for the Haiti Solidarity Club, for instance, and we do a lot of stuff after school. We do a lot of stuff at lunch. And it would just be impossible to be doing that commute and still being able to do something like that. At that point, if I'm not even able to engage in a lot of the activities that I really love with students, I would probably look to teaching somewhere else, whether it be in this area, or like I mentioned earlier, if I were to move to another state where it's just overall much more affordable.
I want to retire a kindergarten teacher. I want to be here. I'm here for the long haul. I love this district. I love this community. I'm in it.
I see myself growing and developing as a teacher and being a part of this school community, and we have a kind of an institution of English teachers in our department. Some have become admin, others have just worked as in so many leadership positions within the school to make our department what it is, and I really want to be a part of that institution. And I never thought that it would be a conversation that I would leave. My entire family is 45 minutes away. My husband's entire family is 45 minutes away. But as we start talking about kids and the reality of living here, I think we always thought that we would have owned a home at this point. I have been saving pennies since I was a child, being ready for this. And even with, I'm very grateful for my salary. The compensation we get as teachers at Los Altos High is incredible. But even though I'm very grateful for it, it isn't enough to live here. And so we're just now starting to have the conversation of what might happen in the coming years.
Oh, I really do think these affordable housing issues are issues for all of us. Look, even if you're already well housed or affordably housed, you care about the quality of life in your community. You care about the tax base. You care about the economic vitality that allows you to have great parks and good streets and solid schools. And all of that depends on the ability to attract and retain a workforce. And without workforce housing, you've got no workforce, and that economic vitality and that tax base is at risk. So, there's a very practical reason in that regard to care. Beyond that, I think, any one of us who's stuck in traffic, and that's pretty much all of us, has to say, where did these people come from? And the answer is they came from someplace an hour and a half to 2 hours away, and, they're driving halfway to hell and gone to get to work, and they're wishing that they were only 5 or 10 minutes away from work just like you are. And what that means is that the traffic we complain about is the traffic we've created by telling those folks they can't be part of our community. And then, finally, I also think it's not just an economic vitality or traffic issue, it's a public safety issue. Because we live in a place where there are fires and floods and earthquakes, and the next time we have one of those, we're going to want people there to help keep us safe. And if the folks who keep us safe, whether it's a cop or a firefighter or a nurse or a PG&E lineman or just somebody who's got the keys to the building, isn't there because we've priced them out of our neighborhoods, we're going to be at risk. So for all those practical reasons, but finally I would just say, I think most of us really want to live in communities where we feel a sense of neighborliness and where the people we interact with on a daily basis aren't strangers to us. I think we'd like to be able to call somebody by the first name, have them call us by our first. I think we want our teachers to feel like they're part of the fabric of the community and really invested, and that they understand the pressures or the challenges of a particular community that a kid is facing every day before they come to school. So it's a kind of a Norman Rockwell old-fashioned notion of community, but I think it's something actually people are really hungry for these days, and it ought to be another reminder of why affordable housing isn't just an issue for somebody else, it's an issue for all of us.
We're thinking about moving to Morgan Hill, which is going to be a very substantial commute. I think that we're just going to have to cope with an hour-plus commute for each of us, just so that we can feel like we can call someplace home. And that's really what we want. We want to call someplace home. Would we like to call this area home? Absolutely. I want to continue to work for Los Altos because I love the district. And it may mean that I commute an hour, 10 minutes just to get there so that I can have that piece of stability in my life.